All right. So, welcome back to ABC Weddings Unveiled podcast, the podcast where we go beyond the pretty and dive into the real stories, strategies, and business insights behind the wedding industry. I'm your host, Veronica Foster, president of the Association of Bridal Consultants. And today's episode is one that every wedding professional, especially wedding planners, need to hear. Today, we're talking about style shoots, but not just the kind that look beautiful on Instagram. We're talking about how to use style shoots, if I could say it all together, strategically to grow your brand, build powerful industry relationships, and actually book more weddings. And to be honest, I could not think of a better guest to have this conversation with. So today, we are joined with Colleen Bauer, master wedding planner, founder, and owner of Fairy Godmother Events, one of the largest planning companies in California's Central Valley. Colleen has built an incredible business, very much rooted in creativity, collaboration, and community. So, Colleen, I am very excited to have you here and on the ABC Weddings Unveiled podcast.
Well, thank you, Veronica. Thanks for the introduction.
My pleasure. I could have gone on for like 5 or 10 more minutes, but awesome. So I know parts of your story. So I would love for you to share how you went from, was it banking career?
Yes.
To Fairy Godmother Events.
Yes. So as probably many other wedding planners, I didn't actually set out to be a wedding planner. I had a career in banking and I chaired a business women's conference many years ago. And several people from the conference said to me, why aren't you doing events? Why aren't you planning events? So I kind of took to heart what they said. I took probably 6 or 7 months, went to a bridal show, kind of did my homework, and realized that looks like fun. And I had done a lot of birthday parties and family events. My mom was very, very social. There was always parties at our house. But my dad was a banker, so I went into the banking world. And it just so happened a girl at the bank was getting married in January, and she approached me in October and just asked if I would help her. And so that was our first wedding. And so the first year, it was just going to be, Veronica, something fun to do on the side because banking's very, very structured, a lot of rules and regulations. And so, being in the wedding industry, you could be creative and have fun. So I thought, I'll do one. We'll just do one a month. And it just kept growing. We kept getting referred and recommended. And we didn't have a website. We didn't have a Facebook page. We didn't have any social media, any kind. And I think the first year we did about 22 weddings, all word of mouth. It just, it took on a world of its own. And I worked full time and I did Fairy Godmother for almost 7.5 years. And then I quit the bank full time, my full time career 7 years ago. Or probably 8 years ago now. It's coming on 8 years. So you can do it. If you work a full-time job, you can you can definitely quit your job and take on wedding planning full-time. It's possible.
Awesome. Yeah, that transition I think is hard for a lot of people. Because your safety net is gone and you're just 100% relying on yourself.
Yes.
Awesome. So I know you do speaking events, of course, and you talk a lot about style shoots. And I know I've sat in on 1 or 2, and I never thought of them in sometimes in the way that you have. So I know, one of the things when we say style shoot, it's always thinking of like a portfolio picture. What do you believe the real purpose of a style shoot is?
I believe that it's important when you are looking at doing a style shoot that you understand your why. So whether it be I'm going to do a style shoot for a new venue, or maybe I'm going to do a style shoot because I want to be known for doing, a lot of beautiful black and white weddings as far as color is concerned. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you want to add more color to your portfolio because a lot of your clients are doing black and white weddings. So you just need to understand your purpose and your why, so that when you're bringing on the other wedding professionals, they too can understand the purpose and the why. So I think it's important that everybody's on the same page, but you first need to know, what is it that I hope to get out of this? Am I doing it specifically, for example, because I want to be in like the ABC, magazine? Maybe there's a focus that they want, or maybe it's that we have a brand new venue that's opening up and they have kind of a Western flair. So that's going to be our purpose. So I think it's important to first know your purpose.
Awesome. And what do you feel is the difference between, sometimes what people do to be pretty and one that actually grows your business?
Well, you have to make sure that when you're doing the style shoot, that you don't just do it and then show the pretty pictures and then don't do anything with it. So what are you going to use it for? That again goes back to knowing your why. You're going to be using it for your merchandising, for your marketing. Is it helping other fellow wedding pros that maybe are trying to get additional work? Is it collaborating with people that you ordinarily don't get to collaborate with? Sometimes there's a particular photographer you really want to work with, and that's a really good way to partner with them. Sometimes it's a florist, a bakery. I tend to really first decide, what is my why, and then what is the style, and then what wedding pros are going to fit that style and that why. And then once it's produced, we tend to keep it kind of under wraps. We keep it pretty secretive. And then when we do publish, we make a kind of a big deal out of it. We always let the photographer publish it first because they're photographing our work. But you want to have kind of a marketing strategy behind your styled shoot. It's not just for the pretty. It's not just a post on social media. You need to understand, what are you going to be doing with this styled shoot once it's completed? And your team, all the wedding pros that are working with you, also need to understand that information too.
Awesome. That's great. Is there a particular time that you feel a planner should invest in, doing a style shoot?
Sure. So we tend to do our styled shoots usually in the summer or January, February. We pick our down months because you're really not going to get the wedding pros that you want if you're picking a wedding month. We also try and book them pretty early in advance so that you can give the team, a lot of information, and it's on their calendar, and there's, you're not pushing people during a busy season. And we all have downtime. In my area, the downtime is January, February, and usually July, August. So those are the months we tend to prefer to do our style shoots.
Awesome. Now, I know you mentioned that you do a lot of weddings, of course. Mm-hmm. I see all the beautifulness on social media. Do you feel like there's still a purpose in doing style shoots, even though you have, that continuity of business?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that much like bridal shows, people will say to me, why do you still do bridal shows? Because I feel it's important that you need to stay relevant. It's important to meet the new up and coming wedding professionals. You can't stay doing the same thing that you've always done. You'll never grow. I'm very open to meeting a new florist or meeting a new baker or meeting a new venue owner, because I feel like if you're out there, and styled shoots are one way to bring in new professionals that could be very, very talented. And I watch those professionals closely on social media. There's a florist right now we're really watching, and she's newer, but she's really good. And so that would be somebody that, okay, we need to bring her into a styled shoot with her, because that's how you build your kind of portfolio of wedding pros, and you continue to network with them. So much like doing bridal shows, I feel styled shoots are still very important to just stay out there, be relevant. They're also so much fun if you do them right. And you create such camaraderie on the day of and even after, and the friendships that you form. And especially if you take really good care of the wedding pros, and, during the shoot, they understand exactly what the focus is. After the shoot, you follow up with them. But yes, for sure, I would continue doing them.
Awesome. And are there any common mistakes that you see planners, doing when they promote or as they're building up a style shoot?
I do, Veronica. I think, I always cringe when I see a planner throw up on a Facebook page to say, hey, we're doing a style shoot, I need a photographer, or hey, we're doing a style shoot, I need a florist. I feel like that's a little bit backwards. I feel you should understand your why. Then you should really look at what is the style shoot going to look like. Maybe it's going to be a very spring, full of color style shoot. You want to pick out your models. And when we pick our models, we always try and pick an actual couple. It's difficult to get a groom and a bride, and for them to have a connection is very awkward. So as we are doing our weddings through the year, we're looking for couples that they actually worked with that are our true couples. And maybe they have such charisma, or maybe they have a certain look for the shoot that we want to do. So we really try and pull from within our own couples. After we've done that, then we set out to find the right kind of professionals to fit that style shoot. So it might be that it has a very garden theme. We have a florist here in my town that has a very garden feel to their work. So we're going to approach them first. So we hand select the wedding professionals. We don't just throw it up on a Facebook page and ask anybody to apply. We really want to be thoughtful in the process. And we want to make sure that they understand kind of the direction we're going, but then you also have to give them creative freedom. So I think planning is really important. The other thing that I believe is important is that every single wedding pro needs to sign an agreement and a release. You want your models to sign a release. I talk about a story that happened where there was a beautiful style shoot over at the coast. The photographs came back. We all thought they were beautiful. It wasn't us, it was another planning company, but they did not have the model sign a release. And she pulled back and she didn't like the photos. And so the whole shoot was ruined because they couldn't produce the photos. So take a little bit of time to do your styled shoot and get releases from your models, get releases from all the wedding pros that are working with you, because you don't want, for example, florists to say, I don't like the way it turned out, take my photos down, because that's a big chunk of the actual styled shoot. There's so much work that goes into it. Everybody's volunteering their time and their product. Most of the time, florists are giving their product, bakeries are giving their product. So you don't want to waste anybody's time. It's also important that when they sign that agreement, they understand exactly what's being done with the styled shoot, and that there isn't compensation if that's what you agree on. Sometimes a venue will ask us to do a style shoot, and we'll ask them to pay the cost of the flowers or the cost of the bakery. But it's important to really have that ironed out, so there's no hurt feelings or nothing happens after the style shoot. You're very organized. You understand what the shoot's about, who's involved, and what they're signing up for.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's happened. I've seen it happen once or twice, and it's sad because there's so much work and effort that go into that style shoot, and then not be able to show the work I would be very upset.
Yeah, I definitely would too. Even for a baker, that's a lot of time.
Sure.
They put in. It may be, a faux cake,
Right.
but it's still, they have to do all the work to decorate it.
Right. So true, Veronica. So true. Yeah, you just have to, it's just not something you throw together. It's something that, maybe you plan on doing one a year. Do it right. Do something that you're proud of, that you'll be able to, use. Have a focus. Don't just say, I'm going to do a style shoot. Okay, well, what's it about? What's it for? What's your theme? All of that should be done before you go out and ask the wedding pros to be involved. And then we set up a group like Facebook page. Like we really want to make sure to communicate with them so everybody knows, who's working with whom. We all know the direction, but you also want to give them some creative freedom. So you don't want to pigeonhole them to say, I want these flowers, I want it to look like this. You want to give them the inspiration, but then let each wedding pro kind of add their flair and add their design to the style shoot. And because they should be able to be creative as well.
That's for sure. And a lot of times when you give somebody, that leeway to be creative, you'll get way more than you've ever expected.
Yeah, it's so fun for me. We did a style shoot at a ranch, and we did kind of a glam style shoot. It was a country feel, but a glam style shoot. And we gave the baker some inspirational photos. We were doing a lot of kind of bold colors, and she did this beautiful black wedding cake with disco balls all the way down the side of it. And we had used disco balls. We'd used disco balls and pampas grass, and it was a very kind of crazy country feel, but she blew it out. We were shocked when we picked that cake up. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know one thing you mentioned a minute ago too was relationships. So how do you feel doing style sheets help build stronger vendor relationships?
Well, I think especially when you have a new wedding pro that you want to meet and work with and you really admire their work, you can't help but get close to them during a style shoot because you're working with them on the front end to talk about the inspiration and the why and the direction you want to see everybody go. You're working with them in the middle just before the shoot happens, and the day of, you're right alongside them. And then afterwards, you get to celebrate with them if the style shoot's published, which sometimes they are, which is exciting. So you can't help but not form a relationship with them and a friendship with them, because you think about, you basically have a blank slate and you're giving them some direction on where you want the style shoot to go, but then they're getting to add their creative, and then seeing everything come together. You can't not help. I mean, you can't help but not become, friends with a lot of these wedding pros. And it makes it really, really special. I love style shoots. Like, we still do them.
Awesome. So I have one really big question for you.
Okay, ready.
All right. So if let's say you want to do a style shoot, maybe you're new, maybe you're not. How do you actually turn that into like booking paying clients? Do you leverage social media, blogs, etc.?
Yeah, we tend to, like, when we're doing our style shoots, we like to tease a little bit. So we don't give them a lot of show. Like, we don't show them the whole style shoot before we actually have the professional photos, out of respect to the photographer. So we tease it out there. What we're doing, we show little small elements and kind of get people excited about it. And then we always have the photographer be the one to publish the style shoot, because your photographers have a lot of traction. They have a big, usually network of people. And so we want them to actually be the first one and tag everybody or make us collaborators. And then we'll do our own posting about a week later. So we work hard for the style shoot not to be a one-time deal. Like, it's being shown several different times. Blogging is super important as well. It gives everybody a lot of exposure. It helps your search engine on your website. So we're big bloggers. And I feel like you can't just show it the one time. You have to continue to kind of show it and highlight it. And then be able to, if somebody comes to you and says, I'm looking for a Western, like, fun theme, feel to a wedding, you can pull your photos from your Dropbox and you show them the style shoot that you did. So style shoots, we still use our style shoots years later. We'll pull from a style shoot. So
Awesome. So as someone, because you do lead a very large planning team, and I think I know you're getting ready to move and mix some things up, but that's a lot. So how do you bring your team in when you do the style shoots? Like, do you have specific jobs for everyone? How does that work?
So I kind of become, I would say, Veronica, like I'm the one that kind of handles all the logistics, bringing all the people together. But then they're the ones, usually I'll pick one or two from our team that are the actual designers of the style shoot. So they'll show me their design, their inspiration. They'll put together a design deck. And then from that design deck, then we'll work together and we'll look at the design and say, okay, this florist matches this design and this photographer matches this design, because all the photographers that are out there, they do have a certain style to them, whether it's light and bright and breezy, or if it's, more dramatic and moody. So depending on which direction we're going with the style shoot, then I'll work with the planner to determine who's the best team, who's our number one choice. And we'll go out to see if we can get all of them on our date. So we work as a team. There's usually 2 to 3 of us on my team that work every single style shoot. It's never just one. Sometimes I'll have newer planners that we'll bring in to just watch the process and be a part of it. And it's a great way for them to learn.
Awesome. Awesome. So I have 2 really quick questions for
Okay.
you. What is one thing that you would never skip in a style shoot?
Feeding your wedding pros.
Uh,
I know that's shocking, but I think it's really, really important to make them feel special and make them feel like you thought about them. Much like at our weddings, we take really good care of our professionals, but we pre-order snacks, we pre-order lunch so that the day of we're not having to rush around. And because you do work, it is a full day. So
yeah.
that, and I think communication is really, really important, Veronica. When I first started, we did not do a good job communicating with the baker. So when she came and delivered the cake, it didn't look anything like the style shoot. I mean, she missed her mark. And that, I always say, anytime that you're pointing blame, there's 2 fingers, you're pointing at somebody, there's 2 fingers pointing back at you. So I always look at, okay, what could we have done, better? And I feel like it was communication. I think you need to really, really have a very clear vision for your team of, professionals that you're working with. They need to understand the vision, but then again, you also need to give them that creative freedom, but within parameters. So you want to make sure that they know the direction you're going and the look and the feel, but you also want to make sure that you give them some space. So I think communication is really important, and just taking care of your wedding pros, being very organized, respectful of their time. We do a full timeline for style shoots. We don't just kind of throw it all together. And we make sure that everybody knows when each person's to arrive. And then we're also very respectful of the photographer. I think there needs to be a very high level of respect for your photographer. And you shouldn't be posting photos and reels while the style shoot's going on. Allow your photographer to really show the professional photos. It's okay to do little hints and little teases, but don't show all of the work. Let her show it or him show it and, put it out the right way.
I think that's great. You know what, Colleen, this has been very insightful.
Thank you.
And I definitely know that you've opened some folks' eyes, to the fact that style shoots aren't just about aesthetics.
Right.
Because the strategy is very important. Awesome. So I definitely thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And to those that are listening, if you've been thinking about doing a style shoot, let this be your sign. Do it, but do it with intention.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, Veronica.
Thank you. And I definitely appreciate everybody listening to ABC's Weddings Unveiled podcast. And a huge thank you again to you, Colleen, for sharing your expertise and giving us such wonderful advice moving forward.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Awesome.